So guys, the interview granted by Mr. Peter Obi on Arise TV has generated fireworks in the camp of the APC. Honestly, there is serious confusion in the APC camp. I didn't know Peter Obi is that too powerful. This man was on Arise television and he was, calmly responding to questions that were thrown at him. But do you know what? His responses have caused great confusion in the APC. Just listen to this APC chieftain speak.
It's about how if he was elected president or if he has the opportunity, he will begin to tackle poverty from the north. The same thing he's done with our young people, he's also doing with the north. There's poverty in Anambra State. While acting as governor, he did not eradicate poverty in Anambra State. There is still, gaping poverty in that state. That's his own state. Why the North? Does poverty have a tribal identity, have tribal marks? Why is the poverty in the North more important to him than the one perhaps even in his own backyard?
Well, to be fair to him, and I'm not their spokesperson, but he's not here, so we have to kind of reflect accurately what he said. The point he was looking at the percentages of poverty in Nigeria, and the highest percentage is in the north. That's why he used it as an example. And the second thing, that the point I wanted to make was that he was on the program mostly to try and dispel some of the rumors that were swirling around him and the allegations that were made about him. He was saying, because he's got followers, he has a responsibility to the people who follow him. That's why he said that he was not in fact arrested in England, that he was not, he clarified certain points, because one of Mr. Tinubu's aides, it's all over social media, and a member of the APC mocked Obi over his alleged arrest, that he was treated like a common criminal, and requested that the UK should come and tell us what, the criminal things he had done. And so, in other words, and those were things that he felt affected the people who followed. Well, it didn't agitate him. He just felt...
Clearly he did.
In fact, it was...
Chineke, Peter Obi, I didn't know you are this too powerful. You can see how this man is talking and, fidgeting and sweating as if Peter Obi said something wrong. That he's going to tackle the poverty in the north. Is it not obvious that there's poverty in the north? My God. How did Peter Obi wrong Nigerians by telling them that he will tackle the poverty in the north? Was that a wrong statement? And do you know what? They were even condemning Peter Obi for coming out to grant this interview, as in Peter Obi shouldn't speak anymore in Nigeria.
And it was very much an interview that was for the consumption, that's the impression I had, of his supporters. And on a secondary level, perhaps, for his opponents, chiefly those in the APC. He was clearly trying to persuade his supporters that he was still the rock, as they call him, in spite of all the attempts by the APC to dislodge him. That's the impression that I got.
Oh, no wonder Peter Obi hardly speaks. No wonder. Because this man hardly says anything. And there is confusion. Not to talk of when he starts speaking. Thank God Peter Obi is just the kind of person he is. Take a look at this.
Is that Peter Obi has this penchant of really, appropriating other people's vulnerabilities for his own good. Everything you asked him about the crisis in the Labour Party, his own experiences, the things that people have said about him, some of the reports, that were not that complimentary, he banalized all of them. He minimalized everything. Listen, there's no crisis in the Labour Party. It's just these rascals who are coming into, Peter Obi is Peter the Perfect. Nothing about Peter Obi is ever, questionable. He is completely perfect. He alone understands Nigeria's problem. He alone knows the problem. Meanwhile, as a campaigner, for that position, Peter Obi did not offer one single policy, prescription to deal with all of these problems he says we have. What has he said? Even in manifesto at a point, he said he didn't have to, even offer a manifesto. Because he's Peter Obi, why would he offer a manifesto?
So guys, this was the same APC that refused to debate. This was the APC that hardly comes out. They are depending on the manifesto that was written by professionals, as in they hired people to write for them, and that is what makes them the best to emerge the president of Nigeria. You know, these are people that hardly come out for an interview. They don't come out for debate. We all know how Bola Ahmed Tinubu refused to debate with other candidates. He never appeared on any television to grant an interview. And look at the APC man talking as if Peter Obi did anything wrong by coming, you know, to grant this interview. Fellow Nigerians, how did we get here? How did we get here? So guys, I'm going to allow you watch this video in full. Just take your time, relax, and just watch this video, and you are going to listen to more alarming things that this man said. Just take your time and listen. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.
Now, the president-elect Bola Tinubu is preparing to come to the throne of power at a time of unprecedented political and economic turbulence in Nigeria. But perhaps more significantly, the warning bells are ringing well beyond the matter of the economy and politics. Those bells are ringing out over the deep divisions and incredible splinters that have cleaved this country into parts. There are the followers of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar and Rabiu Kwankwaso, all off on their own tangents. Then there are the supporters of Bola Tinubu himself. Then there are the ethnic, religious and regional cleavages. We've seen Mr. Tinubu to some extent define part of his purpose as being to unify. Well, coming on the heels of the divisions and the rupture that were sown before, during and after the elections which many believe were not free and fair, how will he unify Nigeria in a world in which everything is polarized and everybody is shouting at each other on social media? Can he be the man on a mission who will be capable of bringing everyone together? Will he prevail in bringing people into his orbit from across the yawning divide? Well, Nigerians will be watching to see what he brings to the table. And one man who has already made it clear that he is not on that table is the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi.
I've never visited him. I didn't. You know, these are one of the things I'm telling you. They've turned the whole thing into a joke. So what it is now is, what are we going to do to crush this person? What are we going to do to label him this? If it is not to label him tribal bigot, religious bigot, if it's not sticking, maybe we'll find his family, maybe have a love child somewhere, maybe all sorts of things. You know, duplicated identity, everything. Because I've been to the UK about 3 times this year, you know this issue. So it's all about, oh, let's go to Washington and announce to them that is treason, that is involved in this, involved in that. Charles, I did not visit anybody.
Well, for his reaction to that Peter Obi interview that has set social media alight, and a lot more around the upcoming inauguration and Mr. Tinubu's plans for Nigeria, I'm joined now in the studio by the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Felix Morka. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you
Lovely
so much.
to see you again.
Good to see you again.
I wonder how you react to Peter Obi's interview on this program yesterday. Are there parts of it or all of it that you'd like to respond to from the APC's point of view?
Well, if I had the opportunity, I'll respond to every part of that interview. Because to begin with, you know, I think Mr. Obi thinks that this is all about him, but it's not. You know, he thinks that people in the APC, and for that matter, in all of the, nook and cranny of our political, life, are all, looking for him or looking about him to find something. That's not the case. People have moved on. For us in the APC, we had an election. The election has been long concluded. Campaigns are over. political candidacy, candidacy for parties, it's long gone. It's closed. We've moved on. We have a president-elect who, hopefully, in a few days, will be inaugurated in accordance with our constitution. So I think that, Mr. Obi, personally, all of this period, I've hesitated really to really take issues with him directly. But I think that he's really crossing the line. Campaigns are over. He needs to just take a cheap pill and rest it. He has a case before the tribunal. He needs to allow his lawyers do their job now. Coming on the show to suggest that everybody in this country in APC are simply, even referred to his private life, people maybe going to look for some babies that he may have had. That's ridiculous. This is about the presidency of this country. This is serious matter. Peter Obi has been way too sanctimonious, I think, for someone who really voluntarily got involved in the political process and offered himself to compete for presidency. What did you expect? It's, a serious business. People say it's even a mucky business, but it is something of a serious business to produce the presidency of a country, any country. There's no country in the world where the competition for presidency is a walk in the park. It's heavy duty, engagement. Sometimes even, I don't want to use the words that were on TV, but people take this to the extreme sometimes. But I think that we've had this. Peter Obi did not win the election. The majority of people in this country voted either for the PDP or for the APC that won the election. Peter Obi came a distant third in the race. So this whole idea that he is the one who won the election that was taken from him, where does that come from? He didn't even come second. If he's claiming, to be the next in line from a third position, that's absolutely ridiculous. So I think he needs to just rest it. And I think he's made a political capital of really exploiting people's vulnerabilities. He did that with the young people. Peter Obi is, by any stretch of calculation, an integral member of Nigeria's political elites. He's a part and parcel of the political establishment. This guy was governor for 8 years in Anambra State.
Well, that could well be why he knows the political establishment well enough to want to reform it.
No, see, if by that criterion you suggest that he knows the political system, a man like Asiwaju, I'm sure, knows 1,000,000 times more than he does, because he comes from a longer distance to this conversation than Peter Obi does. So if anyone has any claim, it should actually be the likes of Asiwaju or the likes of Atiku Abubakar, not Peter Obi. But the point I'm making is that in 2019, this guy was the vice presidential candidate to Atiku Abubakar. Now, assuming Atiku won that election, in this election of this season, Peter Obi would have been running for re-election and might have been re-elected, to serve. So when did all this, sainthood actually become?
Right. Well,
the point I'm making is that in that interview, he also referred to the point he made. He made statements about how if he was elected president or if he has the opportunity, he will begin to tackle poverty from the north. The same thing he's done with our young people, he's also doing with the north. There's poverty in Anambra State. While acting as governor, he did not eradicate poverty in Anambra State. There is still gaping poverty in that state. That's his own state. Why the north? Does poverty have a tribal identity, have tribal marks? Why is the poverty in the north more important to him than the one perhaps even in his own backyard?
Well, to be fair to him, and I'm not their spokesperson, but he's not here, so we have to kind of reflect accurately what he said. The point he was looking at the percentages of poverty in Nigeria, and the highest percentage is in the north. That's why he used it as an example. No. And the second thing, the point I wanted to make was that he was on the program mostly to try and dispel some of the rumors that were swirling around him and the allegations that were made about him. He was saying, because he's got followers, he has a responsibility to the people who follow him. That's why he said that he was not in fact arrested in England, that he was not, I mean, he clarified certain points, because one of Mr. Tinubu's aides, I mean, it's all over social media, and a member of the APC mocked Obi over his alleged arrest, that he was treated like a common criminal, and requested that the UK should come and tell us what, the criminal things he had done. And so, I mean, in other words, and those were things that he felt affected the people who followed. Well, it didn't agitate him. He just felt...
Clearly it did.
In fact, it was very much an interview. And again, I'm not his spokesman or his defender, but he's not here to defend himself. And it was very much an interview that was for the consumption, that's the impression I had, of his supporters. And on a secondary level, perhaps, for his opponents, chiefly those in the APC. I mean, he was clearly trying to persuade his supporters that he was still the rock, as they call him, in spite of all the attempts by the APC to dislodge him. That's the impression that I got.
No, Charles, when you come on national television, you're speaking to everybody. There's no such audience that is selected.
No, I understand that.
Okay? I'm coming. There's no sort of audience where you say, he was speaking to his supporters. If you wanted to speak to his supporters, call a conference, go to a venue, invite your supporters and speak to them. When you come on national television, whatever you say is available to every Nigerian who is listening. You have a wide audience, for your television. So whatever he says here was meant for the consumption of everyone, including myself. And I listened to that interview. What I'm saying is that, why is it that anytime something is said about Peter Obi that is uncomplimentary, there's the need to come out to speak to his supporters to set the record straight?
Well, I would imagine that if things were said about your principle, you'd do the same thing.
Charles, let me finish my thought on this. Yes, I would do the same thing. But when things are said about, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect, for example, the same supporters of Peter Obi are the ones who make, a mountain out of nothing. For instance, during your interview, he said that, something about talking about the UK and his exit from the UK. He said it was in 2025. That was a slip. That was a normal thing that we have.
You mean 2025?
He said that. But if that was Asiwaju who said that, by now, this would be repeated a million times, even on this television station. All I'm saying is that we all make mistakes. But all I'm also the point I'm trying to make here is that Peter Obi has this penchant of really, appropriating other people's vulnerabilities for his own good. Everything you asked him about the crisis in the Labour Party, his own experiences, the things that people have said about him, some of the reports, that were not that complimentary, he banalized all of them. He minimalized everything. Listen, there's no crisis in the Labour Party. It's just these rascals who are coming into, Peter Obi is Peter the Perfect. Nothing about Peter Obi is ever, questionable. He is completely perfect. He alone understands Nigeria's problem. He alone knows the problem. Meanwhile, as a campaigner, for that position, Peter Obi did not offer one single policy, prescription to deal with all of these problems he says we have. What has he said? Even in manifesto, at a point, he said he didn't have to, even offer a manifesto, because he's Peter Obi. Why would he offer a manifesto? Other candidates who have more experience were willing to lay down their thoughts and their ideas, their vision in documents, so people like you, experts, can review and critique. But he would not do that. Look, all I'm saying is that it's not enough. Look at the example he gave. Peter Obi is an importer of goods and products into this country. He talks about containers coming in, with goods and, leaving the country empty. How many of those containers has he ever filled to export so he can generate revenue that he talks about? He said, look, we need to just stop. This is not something I want to come on TV to, be discussing. But the point is that when a man who competed for election, lost an election, has hired, brilliant lawyers and, given them the mandate to go to court, and they've gone to court, I think that some of these issues should be left the hell alone.
Right.
So that we can move on. Because whether Peter Obi likes it or not, Nigeria is bigger than him. Nigeria is bigger than even the president-elect. It's bigger than even the current president. But collectively as a nation, we must move on. And it's time to move on.
Well, let's
move
move on.
This behind.
Let's move on in this interview because the next crucial phase for you as a party is the inauguration on May the 29th and the plans for this country after that. What are those plans in a nutshell? I mean, one of the big issues in Nigeria that nobody can deny is that the country is very divided at the moment. And the president, after he's sworn in, the president-elect becomes a president for all Nigerians. So what are his plans for unifying this country in a nutshell? I wonder if you might describe some of that for us and some of the other things you think are important to highlight.
You know, the president-elect is already on that question. He's been, from the day he was elected, his acceptance speech, all of the comments he's made, his remarks in, that are in the public domain, he's recognized that. He knows that he's becoming president at a time when this country has become intensely challenged with, coming together. Polarized, if you want to use that. Around, both the national questions and the issues of existential questions. He recognizes that. And I believe that, and from just being around him and listening to him, I'm convinced that he is coming to this with that sense of duty. He said that very clearly. He's going to be president for everybody, including Peter Obi. He's going to be president for you, for me, for all of us. And I think that Nigerians should just, hold their breath and give him that time of day to, get inaugurated and, take the authority of office.
Yeah, but
I think that in the initial optic, from his appointments, from the speed with which he's going to move, to make those appointments and the quality of people and the diversity of people he's going to bring to the table to work with him to begin the business of governance. I think that he will leave no one in doubt that he's come to this with a sense of commitment and purpose.
Well, we'll have to wait and see the composition of the people who are going to work closely with him. Obviously, there's a constitutional requirement for there to be a spread in any case.
Absolutely.
But I'm wondering how he's going to successfully govern in a country that is so stricken by deep political, ethnic and religious divisions, and where there are fundamental questions of legitimacy dogging your man, who many believe did not win the election freely and fairly. I mean, that's a fact. And, there have been allegations suggesting that the APC, and obviously we're putting that to you, we're simply saying they're allegations, but they're there. Now, the APC has concluded plans to compel the tribunal judges to uphold the election of Mr. Tinubu as president. And I wonder what your reaction might be to that.
By what means?
I don't know. I mean,
no, Charles, look.
Well, let me tell you the means that they've mentioned. They've said that there are heavy financial inducements being proffered. It's been alleged that there is a plan if a judge decides not to accept the financial inducements to blackmail the judges by digging up dirt on them and threatening to use it to end their careers. I mean, and people have to wonder whether there's any truth to that. Just like Peter Obi came out yesterday to say there's no truth to the fact that, all the allegations made against me. I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask.
No, I'm not questioning your right to ask the questions or you have a duty to ask, I mean, if it's come to your knowledge. But the point is that it's just utterly ridiculous to suggest that our entire judicial system has been, so compromised to the point that the idea of justice in our country is no longer, attainable.
Well, when people believe that the election itself was fiddled and that INEC and the security agencies were compromised in a particular direction, I'm saying when people believe that, they also believe that the judiciary can also be compromised.
Those who believe...
And the history of that judiciary suggests that there have been elements within it that have been compromised.
Charles,
yeah,
we had an election. The election was substantially free and fair, and an outcome was declared from that election. Listen, there's no election in this country, there's been no election held in the history of democracy that was concluded without controversy. Name one.
Yeah, but that is why it's in the domain of the judiciary, because questions are being raised about that election.
The point I'm making is
that's why people are worried about whether that judiciary has been compromised.
With respect to every election, Charles, there will be controversy. Every election anywhere in the world, there's hardly a country where elections are done and people just, wake up, dust up and go to bed. You have people who question elections, irrespective. That is to be expected. That is normal. So you don't take what is normal, even in the best, advanced democracies, like the United States. The president of the United States today was elected amidst intense, polarization of that country and intense controversy. And the legitimacy of that election is still in question by those who decide that the election was in fact not free and fair. Right? That's the United States. That's supposed to be the beacon of democracy. So the point I'm making is that when we have an election and somebody says, I don't believe the election was free and fair, what has that got to do with the legitimacy of the process? You can question it. I can question right now that you know what it is too.
Yeah, but it's not just an errant questioning. I mean, people are saying that they have, and we saw pictorial evidence
of what?
Of a lot of areas across Nigeria where the elections were disrupted by people, where things were interrupted.
Elections are required to be free and fair.
Yeah, they're supposed to be
substantially free and fair. If you are expecting a perfect election where there are no complaints, where there are no hitches or gaps or delays or complaints or problems, listen, go somewhere to Mars and conduct your own elections. But if you are on planet Earth and you conduct an election, this is to be expected. So all I'm saying is that the fact that someone or some people or even yourself decides that this election deserves to be questioned, or there's a reason to question the election, that does not in any way invalidate the outcome. You have a place where you can do that, where you can challenge the election and actually produce evidence. It's not enough to simply make allegations.
Which is
that's
what is going on at the moment.
That's what is going on. That's why we must also afford that system the time to go through the motion and the processes and actually come out. But a situation where you have gone to court and then the same you are saying, oh, these judges are unreliable, these judges are not trustworthy, these judges have zero integrity. When you do that,
I don't think they said
no. That's the net of everything you've said, that people believe, or some people believe. If that's what they believe, then you know what? I cannot help them. Take your case to God, because on this planet Earth, there's only one place we are required to go. Our constitution, the ground norm, requires that if you do an election, you're not satisfied, take your case to the court. Now, if anyone decides that the courts are not good enough for them to go, like I said, there's the only other place you can go is go meet your maker and submit the case for divine adjudication. But for this moment, we as the party, we believe that we had an election. The outcome was not perfect, but was not so imperfect that anyone should adjudge it to be completely unreliable. Because nowhere in the world are elections perfect. So we're not in a world of our own. This is the reality of it.
I understand that.
That's what it is.
Are there any moral issues that you wrestle with when it comes to this election and the upcoming inauguration of May the 29th?
No, I don't. You see, let me tell you why I don't. When I say that, I think somebody will hear me and say, oh, how can you say you're saying that everything is fine? No. Everything about our country was not perfect, was not all rosy. From the day I was born. and I'm not, I think I have back to some age now. All my life, Nigeria has been, work in progress. Don't forget, just a few years ago, this country was governed back to back by soldiers. In 1999, we won this current, republic and a democracy now. It's work in progress. We've made progress. And I think that, I was a democracy campaigner. And so more than the average Nigerian, I was involved in that system. So when I see the country today, with all the imperfections, listen, it is a massive, leap in progress from where we were back then. So I'm saying that we need to just, take this in measure.
Right.
Because otherwise, look at Chimamanda. I hate to bring her up, but I have to. She lives in the United States with a president who was elected, in the midst of deep divisions and intense controversies. She writes to that president whose own legitimacy is, under the radar, under scrutiny.
Well, his
relentless
legitimacy
scrutiny
isn't, because
it is,
because of all there were 60 there were more than 60 lawsuits that were instituted by Donald Trump, and he lost every single one of them. So in those circumstances,
really? Charles,
in those circumstances, you can't.
Is it but
the case hasn't been decided in Nigeria.
That's my point.
Right.
But you have submitted it. If everyone in the United States decided that the courts of that country were incapable of, delivering justice, you won't be referring to the outcomes, because by then maybe somebody might have truncated that entire process.
In fairness,
we cannot truncate that. We must let
the
our
American judiciary is not on the same level as the Nigerian.
Who says that?
Because there's a lot of evidence to suggest to the contrary.
I'm a lawyer. We had judges in this country who, under the military system, were profoundly.
We're talking about today.
I am
talking about then.
The same judges. Some of the judges, may still be on the bench. Some of them may be, retired. But even those who are upcoming, you cannot now sit and say that, our entire judicial system is worthless. I refuse.
Nobody said it's
not
worthless.
Just because I'm a lawyer, but I think that it's really unfair.
Nobody said it's worthless.
But that's what
this is an opportunity for that judiciary to redeem.
No, this is what it appears to suggest, Charles, that our court system is manifestly unreliable, and that they cannot be trusted to do justice. And I am saying that we must give our judges and our tribunals and our courts the opportunity to come out. So, because after all said and done, what if, for instance, because when you go to court, this can swing anyway. After all this, very unfair, comments and suggestions, what if the courts came out in some way that completely, went against this trend of, condemnation of our judicial system? My point is that when a matter is in court, that's why lawyers say this is sub judice. Let it be. Stand back, stand fast. Let the judges decide. Worry about the quality of your evidence, because you can go to court with a nonsense, argument and expect to win. And when you don't win, you say, they were bought or just was sold. We cannot build a democracy on this premise. We must at least, give that whole presumption of regularity, of competence, of integrity to our judges until they act otherwise, and then you have evidence to say this is the reason I believe they didn't do.
I promise you that presumption is there, which is why the cases are in court.
No, for me it's there, but I don't know about this public assessment that you've given today.
Well,
I don't.
Felix is.
So guys, let me bring in the interview that Mr. Peter Obi granted so that you listen for yourself. You will get to know that Peter Obi didn't say anything that should be causing all this confusion. As in, Peter Obi was straightforward, and he was very choosing when Peter Obi was very straightforward, and he was very careful, in choosing his words, as if he knows that the APC was just waiting for him to finish this interview for them to come out and start slamming him. Just listen to Peter Obi speak.
Day, because I saw you on the television at the Labor Day, the May Day celebrations earlier today, and you've gone from one meeting to the other, so we really appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. I like that. Now, there have been a lot of reactions trailing your apparent apparent arrest in London by the British authorities. Some have said that you were being witch hunted by the APC, others that a petition was sent against you, and still others that you were being impersonated. Can you tell us the circumstances of your purported apprehension in London and what has happened subsequently, and sort of clear the air on that? Did you commit an offence for which you were being stopped?
Thank you, Charles. One is, I was never arrested. I was never detained. And I did not commit any offense. I was stopped for a routine immigration check because there appears to be a duplication of my identity. And all this lasted for maximum of 20 minutes. And I was treated in what I do with all due respect. Charles, I lived in the UK in the 90s, say from 1993 until 2005.
I remember meeting you in London, actually, in that period.
Yes. Charles, not just that I lived there, from that 1993 till now is a period of 30 years. I have never been questioned, arrested, detained in any country in the world. I've never been, for any reason, found myself in any manner being questioned for any offense. I've not committed any offense. So it was a routine immigration check. And it lasted, like I said, less than 20 minutes. And I was actually given all the due respect by the border personality that interviewed me, who told me, your identity is duplicated, be careful, and actually had to walk me through what I can call the VIP process and everything. And I have a written document from British government.
I've seen that document.
Thank you. I showed it to you.
Clarifying the situation.
He was never detained, and it was just a few minutes question and everything. And they were Nigerians because I arrived on British Airways. So they were Nigerians who were queuing up. Even Woods here was even worried that I was asked to just wait for a few minutes. And when that happened, I explained it to them, and they said nothing. But it's been traumatized and everything because it's me. People said I was detained, committed an offense. People said even committed several offenses and everything. Oh, his company was closed. He wasn't paying tax. Charles, for the years I lived in Britain, never have I had any day been questioned. And I can say it, my taxes, my days were duly paid. In fact, most times they have refunded me money for overpayment. I've borrowed money, I've done everything globally. Not one day did I default in any. If you find one default, then it's not Peter Obi.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that point about the arrest. And in support of the point you're making, I have seen the letter from the British High Commission making it ineluctably clear that it was no such thing. Nevertheless, as you said, there was a huge hullabaloo about that in Nigeria. I mean, was that a humiliation for you, or at the very least embarrassing that all this was being talked about you, and I mean, even the people who follow you were disappointed?
Charles, I would have made comment on it earlier, but these things happened during what I call holy month, where for me as a Christian, it was a fasting period and period of the Ramadan. And I felt it is not time to make comments. I only answered one question within that period when I was mentioned with treason, because I felt it's a huge offense. And because it was actually mentioned where it shouldn't have been mentioned. Other than that, I just felt This is the clarification. And I've just shown you the letter.
Yes.
I won't go about telling everybody and showing everybody the letter.
Yeah, that is true.
It just showed you where we've taken our rascality to, where people now come up with all sorts of things.
Well, some people said you were deported from the UK. but obviously not.
No, they saw it. I was routine check and I was allowed to go.
Right.
They even saw where I attended churches and meetings and everything. But that's where we have reached.
But I mean, what sort of questions did they ask you when they took you in?
Nothing. I was there. Nobody took me to anywhere.
Right.
I was just in front of a counter and I was asked a question and they said, there's something wrong with your identity. There's something wrong with your identity. Just give me a few minutes and that's it. And I sat there for the few minutes. For about 15 minutes, he came back and said, your identity is duplicated. And if my identity is duplicated, you've lived there, brothers, identity theft, duplication, which I would say must have originated from here. But that is for another day.
Yeah, I'm glad you've clarified that point. But there's also another question being raised about whether you are a dual citizen. As you said, you lived in London for a long time. I mean, do you have dual nationality, either British, American, or elsewhere? Because I was reading somewhere that you were conferred with the honorary citizenship of Dallas, Texas in 2022.
Charles, you know what that means? It means nothing.
Yeah.
Even one of the presidential candidates said that it means nothing. It just shows that, okay, well, if you come into this city, you're welcomed. It doesn't even give you a visa. If you apply for a visa, it can't even help you for your visa application. It means nothing. Charles, I've never applied.
Right.
And I will never apply for citizenship of any other country.
Yeah, but
I'm a Nigerian.
Right. But
I believe in Nigeria. I lived in the UK for a period of about 12 years. I had a permanent stay.
So you were a permanent resident in the UK?
But I had indefinite stay,
right. Okay.
Which means I can stay there for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But when I left the UK in 2025, I went back to them and said, take your stay. I'm no longer have anything. And I go to the UK with visa.
And also to clarify the fact that even if you were a permanent resident, that doesn't make you a citizen of
Well, I'm just telling you that even that stay, I returned it.
Right.
I have never applied and I will never, as long as I live.
Right.
My family knows this, everybody knows that. I was born in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. God created me a Nigerian. He would have made me an American, or a Japanese, or a British. But since he made it that I'm a Nigerian, I will want to live and die in Nigeria.
Nevertheless, Asari Dokubo, who is a well-known person from Rivers State, says he can prove that you are a citizen of the Solomon Islands, and that the conditions for buying property there is that you must be a citizen. What's your reaction? Do you own property there?
One, I don't know where is Solomon Island. I've never been such a place in my life. You know, I don't know. I've never been there. You know, I've no reason to go there. Few places I've gone in the Caribbean, places like Haiti. I was in Haiti when they had the earthquake. I was a governor. Then, everybody who is close to me knows that I've been to most troubled places in the world. So when there was earthquake in Haiti, I went to President Jonathan. He's still there. I said, Mr. President, I'm going to Haiti. They had an earthquake. I want to go and help them to rebuild. He was even surprised. He said, Peter, why? I said, that's what I've done all my life. I've been to most troubled parts of the world. As I'm speaking to you, Mr. President, I've withdrawn my son from school. We're going there to Haiti. And I went there. The High Commissioner then will tell you, I even met some police officers from Nigeria who were there, and they will tell you. I even traveled with some of the people who, Bob Manuel, who used to be one of the actors, he saw me and said, I'm going to this place to help them rebuild. And I helped them to raise money then, over $200,000. So I've been to Haiti, and I've been to Barbados. So other than that, I can't remember. I don't know where Solomon Islands, Charles.
Right.
I've never been there. I don't own a property anywhere outside Nigeria, except in the UK, where I lived.
Yes.
Other than that, any other place that there's a property in the name of Peter Obi, it is fake. It doesn't exist, and I don't need it. Why would I own a property where I don't live?
Well, I'm glad you clarified that point, but I'm afraid there are other things that need clarification. The Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, recently called for your arrest, accusing you of treason. Do you see any links between your activities lately and any treasonable offenses?
Charles is height of rascality. Height of rascality. That it was even announced in Washington. I committed a treasonable offense, and I'm in Onitsha, and my minister went to announce it in Washington. This is what I'm talking about. We're not talking about waste in governance here. People don't want to understand. The amount it costs Nigeria for him to go and announce that in Washington can fix, I can tell you, I've been in government, can build a block of 6 classrooms in a primary school. I'm sure if you go to his village, there's so many places where children don't even have desk or classroom to go to school. And instead of using that money to go and do it, he used that money to go to Washington to announce of treason of somebody who is non-HR. He doesn't need to do that. It is rascality of the highest order. These are the reason why we want a new Nigeria where things will work the way it works in other clime. From there he went to London, announcing the same thing. Well, I'm in Nigeria. He should have come to see me or invite me and said this is the offense. How did we get here?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I'm afraid it will remain a rhetorical question at the moment. Some of your followers, just moving on from that, who are known as obedience, have recently engaged in a sort of caustic exchange of words with Professor Wale Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, and he said that they simply don't accept any form of criticism. And I think it was around the time when he made the comments about fascism and your deputy, Yusuf Baba Dati Ahmed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Charles Prof is a respected, revered personality in Nigeria and globally. And I've always respected him. And he's a dear father to me. And for me, I was very, very sad that there was such a change. Some of the obedience, I must tell you, or people they, mentioned, or the obedience, are not entirely people who are with us. The oppositions have also come into it and are using it at times.
You mean other opposition
Other
parties?
opposition parties.
Right.
But that is not to worry about. But I was very sad there was such a change between a respected father and but you have to understand this. These young people are people who have been so deprived by supposedly a system that is supposed to care for them. They've been pushed to the wall. Even me, Charles, the way they even react when I say things, but I could see their pain. I could feel it. Because I live in the same system, Charles, that they are living in. I said this in Enugu 2 days ago. I said, listen, I lived in this town I went to JL in Enugu as a student, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and paid 2,600 and something naira for a Volkswagen car. And within 2 years, Umano Motors in Nsukka sold a 505 to me at 2,700 naira, sorry, at 6,800 and something naira in the same country. I remember Ozumano telling me that they have too many orders from so many lecturers, so my own will be delayed. If you go and see people like Professor Wala, my lecturer then, they are driving new cars. It's some society where we lived, everything was working. All of a sudden, these young fellows now live in what you can consider a war situation. So at times, you know, there's issues. I will make my own comment in it that Prof remains a revered father, and I'll keep respecting him for that. And of course, the young obedience, I feel for them. I wish we can see what they're saying. I wish we can feel what they're feeling. The pain, chance that go around these young people, there's nothing the society is offering them.
Well, it's not just
even when they try to do it on their own.
Yeah.
This is a place where if you carry, today you are moving around with laptop, you are arrested and labels all sorts of names. This is a place where people are thrown into jail for even making comments. These are places where people, all sorts of things are meted on these people. When people who have stolen billions of country's money, done worse things, are moving around, being celebrated, being used as an example to them.
Well, on the back of what you're telling us, today is, of course, Labor Day or Workers' Day, and Nigeria marks the day amid rising unemployment, which kind of relates to the people that you're talking about, because a lot of the people who are most affected by unemployment are young people, and many of them are part of the obedient movement. What is your message about that?
Well, Charles, what message can you give them? Which country of our size that you know today is going through what we're going? We have almost 40% unemployment and 65% youth unemployment. When you talk about 1.3 million people being grouped as multidimensional poor, huge percentage of these are young people in their productive age, doing nothing without knowing where the next meal will come from. And nobody cares about them. And that's what is happening everywhere. And again, if I try to say something, you will even see where I said, I will start fighting poverty from the north. And people say, oh no, he's insulting people from the north. Even when Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said that out of this 133 million people, 86 million is from the north. And I say that's where we have vast or cultivated land, and I believe that we can make more money from agriculture than we're making from oil. And the only way to put this people out of poverty is to invest in these resources and invest in them and everything. So for me, I feel for them.
So that's how you think we should start reducing unemployment, is it? Through agriculture as a first step, or what is your what are your thoughts on unemployment?
You have to move the country from consumption to production. And that you start, the basic thing is agriculture, and you move it into manufacturing and into exports. The country is not doing anything. The country is not producing anything. The population is increasing. You're not doing anything. Just as a simple thing, and I can just give you a simple example. In 2012, we were about 162, 2011, we were about 162 million. Our export is about $130 billion. Today, 2021, we're already over 200 million. We're about 210 million. Our export was about 47 billion. So can you imagine, in 2011, we're about 130. In 2021, we're about 47. When our population moved from about 162 to 2010. In 2012, our export was about $145 billion. In 2020, as at that time, we were about 167 million in 2012. In 2022, we are now about 213 million. Our export last year, if I look at Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, is about 26.8 trillion, which if you convert it with 445 official rate, it's actually about 60 billion. So we couldn't even do half of where we are in 2012. What does it show? You're not doing anything. We have here an average container importation, just using container, not even using the containerized goods. We are now above 1 million. I think it's about, what I read last time, it's about 1.5 million approximately. Charles, several of these, up to 70 or 80%, go back empty. No other country. If you decide today that you have 1.5 million containers coming into Nigeria, and all of them must go back with some form of export, put it on average of about $20,000 per container going back with goods. That's $30 billion. So if, for example, 50% of this goes back empty, you lost $15 billion for a country that needs every dime.
That's a very interesting point.
So we need to do something.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to stay with us because we have to take a short break, but we will be back. It'll give you a chance to have a sip of water. You're watching Arise Prime Time. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. Stay with us. Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now, the saga of Nigeria's 2023 presidential election was for the opposition Labour Party and its leader Peter Obi a tragic affront to democracy and the electoral earthquake that crumbled their hopes, shaking the faith they had that the election would be the turning point that would change the course of Nigeria. Well, the winter winds may be howling for them, but for the President-elect Bola Tinubu, his APC party and their supporters, it'll take more than that to dampen their spirits as Inauguration Day draws near. For them, it's a legitimate ballot that culminated in victory for Mr. Tinubu, never mind the fact that that victory is dogged by major national and international concerns about legitimacy and by the APC's legacy of expanding insecurity, growing growing poverty, rising unemployment, an inflation rate that has ballooned in the last few years, and a currency that has plunged in value, giving way to much harder times, especially for those on low incomes. So as the rival sides step up their preparations for the legal conflict ahead, and the courts become the new front line of their quest for legitimacy amid all the other controversies that are swirling around the leading presidential candidates, where does Nigeria's hottest political issue go from here? And the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, is still with me in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us.
Thank you for having me, Charles.
Now let's turn to the president-elect Bola Tinubu, whom, from what I read, you recently visited or were shown on social media to have visited. That suggests that you're making reconciliation moves. What are the reasons for that, and what would you say to your followers, the obedience, who might, in a sense, feel betrayed by that move, if it did in fact happen?
Charles, it did not happen. I've never visited him. I didn't. These are one of the things I'm telling you. They've turn the whole thing into a joke. So what it is now is, what are we going to do to crush this person? What are we going to do to label him this? If it is not to label him tribal bigot, religious bigot, if it's not sticking, maybe we'll find his family, maybe have a love child somewhere, maybe all sorts of things. You know, duplicated identity, everything. Because I've been to the UK about 3 times this year, this issue. So it's all about, oh, let's go to Washington and announce to them that is treason, that is involved in this, involved in that. Charles, I did not visit anybody.
Okay, well that's a clarification.
So my followers are saying, will remain steadfast in the cause we've chosen, and that is to do the right thing. We went into election with a strong faith in the law that was signed by Mr. President, with a strong faith in the statements of Professor Mahmoud, which was said globally, said it in Washington, he said it in Chatham House, in places where even other electoral bodies don't come to say anything. He said it all over Nigeria. Even when people doubted it, he said nobody should doubt it. It's going to be this real time. Why do we have to go through that? Just why do we have to? Why is this country built that things must be wasted?
So why do you think he said those things and did something else?
We spent nearly $1 billion for this mess. We could have just saved the money. After all, if the university striking lecturers were giving 400 billion, there wouldn't have been no strike. We would have just asked Mr. President, you're going, please appoint somebody of your choice. You would have saved everybody, the parties that were running around, all those monies people use for campaign and everything, running around, even those who shared money for their primaries, they would have saved all that money, even for the forms, and use it to invest in the 2 critical areas that is keeping this country underdeveloped: education and health. If we have put 100 billion in primary health care that have just collapsed, and we have the highest infant mortality, surpassing India, that is 1.4 billion people. Nigeria have surpassed India in infant mortality. If we have put $100 billion naira on that, it would have made all the difference. We didn't. We put it in the election. And then we came up with this. How?
But why do you think he went to all those places, Chatham House and all the places around the world?
I don't know. That's what I said.
And said those things and then did something else.
Yes, that's what I'm worried about. And this is not being said by somebody who is uneducated. It's been said by a respected professor.
But does that give...
That questions the entire... You see, whenever I talk about that, the educational qualification is not a measure of integrity. That's what it should be.
Yeah, but you're suggesting that it was necessarily something that had to do with integrity. They're arguing that it might have been, or that it had something to do with technical glitches.
Which technical glitches? You had three elections the same day. The other two went through the same promise you made. The most important one, the most important election in this country is the election, the presidential election. That's where we have issues. That's where we have our problems. That's what we need to solve. That's where we need competence, capacity, integrity, and everything that character, everything that is required to move it forward. And that is the only one that you have glitch. Which glitch? Can they explain the glitch? Have they ever explained it to anybody? INEC is still uploading the result till today. Does it make sense?
Well, presumably that explanation they'll be forced to make it in court, and of course...
No, it's not even making it in court. You look at the country. Charles, we have a country. We're not the only country globally. There's hundreds of countries globally. Why must our own be always a problem?
Well, you and your party, the Labour Party, are now preparing to enter into a storm of the unknown, into legal, uncharted territory. You've filed a legal challenge in court. What is your sense of how it's all looking as your appointment with that tribunal draws near?
Well, the court will decide. I believe the justices also are on the spot. It is for them to interpret the Constitution, whichever way they do it. I've done it before. I've challenged similar rascality in my state. I've challenged it when I was impeached. I've challenged it when there was issue of tenor interpretation. So I'm challenging it again. And the judges are also on trial. Because on trial of interpretation of our Constitution, of the law, of the process. Like I said, what we are challenging is not just about who is there or who is not there. It is the process. Just the process through which people get to anywhere is far more fundamental than what they do thereafter. I recall asking one of the professors a few days ago, I said, can I be a professor? Can I start writing I'm a professor without having to do the necessary work of being a professor? He said, no. I said, okay. Who said I'm not probably more intelligent than most professors? But there's a process. And it's that process that I want people to respect. There's a law. That's why we went through that electoral law that we celebrated. And that's what we're challenging.
Well, obviously, there's a lot to go through. I mean, the case is in court, and we'll have to wait to see how it goes. But let me turn to the internecine crisis that is leaving or tearing your party, the Labour Party, apart, or appears to be doing so, with public fights over the chairmanship, jockeying for position, etc. What's really going on in the Labour Party?
There's nothing happening in the Labour Party. I like what you said. There's nothing wrong in Labour Party. It's the same rascality that is going on all over the place. The chairman of Labour Party is Barrister Julius Abure. That I can tell you.
But you have to admit that all this wrenching, wrangling and sort of petty fights and quarrels over positions, etc. I mean,
which position are they fighting for?
Well, I mean, we see it virtually every day.
Because people are paid, people are hirelings, being paid to distort facts and everything. For example, Charles, I've never met Mr. Papa. And supposedly, you can say that I'm a meaningful figure in Labour Party. I'm the presidential candidate. So, but I've not met the other party chairman, and he's not looking for me. So, there was a purpose. It's because of the transactional politics we do, where rather than spend our energy and time trying to do the right thing, we spend our energy and time trying to do the wrong thing. Paying people to do the wrong thing, paying people to create, because we live off this confusion. In Labour Party, we don't have an issue. The party is intact, the party is working. The party was founded by Labour, NLC, TUC, the Labour organization. They founded the party. That's why today I had to quietly go and join them, solidarity in what they're doing, because they are the owners and we're working seamlessly in as it's supposed.
Well, I mean,
but you have to have all these problems by paid agents and everything. And that notwithstanding, because we're a family, we're even trying to bring everybody, even those to say they've paid you, maybe you've done the job they wanted to do, please come. Let all of us be a family.
Right, because I mean, I'm sure you know that people, I mean, it doesn't inspire confidence in the public when they see a party that they believed in was going to reshape this country and repurpose things. I mean, you know, they were entrusting this country, or were planning to entrust, at least some people, this country to your party. I mean, and to them, and people have made a lot of comments about this. I mean, it seems like you're no different from the other parties that you criticize.
Because those who live off the confusion, who are already in other party, will not go away without tearing away, trying to, you know, create confusion everywhere. That's what it is. They're not going to keep quiet. I've said it before. Whenever I talk to the opinions, I said to them, don't think these people are going to go away saying, no, we're happy. No, they're not going to do that. It's impossible. But if we stay on doing the right thing, eventually we'll win. And that's what we want to continue doing.
Right.
And I assure you, that's where we are.
Well, let's talk about one more apparent scandal. That's that audio leak. You might have talked about this before, but we want to sort of hear it from you again. That audio leak of what appeared to be a private conversation between you and Bishop David Oyedepo, in which you appeared to have described the elections as a religious war, and which has been seized upon by your critics as an example of you promoting a religious agenda. Did that conversation take place, or was it an outright artificial intelligence fabrication, or somewhere in between?
Charles, whatever you call it, whatever anybody wants to make of it, it's fine with me. All I can tell you is that, Charles, I'm not a religious or tribal bigot.
But you did have the conversation.
No. I just tell you, what they make about it is their business. I've shown you examples, several examples this evening of things that was said about me that is false. From dual citizen, from detention, from treason, from this. So whatever they make it, let me tell you, I am not a religious bigot.
Right.
I'm not a tribal bigot.
But did that conversation
Go
take
and look
place?
in the history of this country and ask yourself, how many people have been opportune to serve privately and publicly and surrounded themselves around with Nigerians? I've said it before. I was governor of my state for 8 years. My ADC, which I mention every day, who is the closest person to me, is from Kano. They said, I demolished mosque in Onitsha. I made Muslims to carry ID card. My police commissioner was from Kano. He was a Muslim. My ADC is from Kano. He was a Muslim. And I'm asking his people to carry ID card, and I was demolishing where they go to worship. Now I went to celebrate Salah with the people in the mosque in Onitsha.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
And they said it was me who rebuilt the mosque when it was destroyed under another governor. So I built the mosque, but I was being labeled as the man who demolished it. Where do you start? These things, like I said yesterday, development doesn't know religion or tribal. All these people are saying, let them show me the road they built. Child, I've never seen a road constructed where only the Muslims are allowed to pass. Like I said, those who are talking about religion in this country, can they show me where Muslims buy bread cheaper? So we can go there and buy the bread. Or show me where Christians buy bread cheaper. They only use this, people only bring issue of religion and tribal because they're not competent, because they don't want to serve.
Right. So that conversation didn't.
So for me, Charles, let me even assume it happened. Do you think I can just pick a phone and say religious war? No.
Well, we know there's artificial intelligence that manipulates.
There must have been a conversation.
Yeah.
And
but we want to be clear on what you said and what you didn't say.
Charles, even subsequent thing, I was even begging the bishop to help me to ask his people to vote, which is what I was doing for 6 months, begging. I wasn't saying snatch it, kill it, take it, force it. I was even begging, which shows that I continue to look for vote by begging. It shows there's so many things you've tried to do, but everything okay. It's easy to manipulate. Let me tell you, those who have been manipulating people in Nigeria have been doing it, but it's coming to an end because even those that are manipulating are not dying of hunger. So they will soon know who is a religious bigot, a tribal bigot. I am not one. I've just given you an example that I built mosque. To today, no non-Muslim governor have sent more people to Mecca than me.
Right.
They said it when I went to Akka. It was them who I was saying it.
Well, I'm going to assume.
When I do pilgrimage,
right.
I send people to Israel. I send people to Mecca.
I'm going to
because
assume.
I believe
right.
that this is the way to go.
I'm going to assume that you did not say that the election is a religious war, because you haven't answered that question. But if you choose not to answer it, I will assume, based on what you said, that
I can never say it's a religious war.
Okay.
Because
so
it's not.
Right. So that clarifies
if there's a conversation, even if, Charles, just like what's happened to me in London, even if I was stopped, you can call it I was stopped or even detained. But to go and say oh, he committed a crime, he did this, this.
And he was arrested as a result of it.
There's conversations around the election where a conversation can come. And I say, listen, this looks like these people are trying to do this. But I did not campaign that is a religious war. What for? I'm surrounded by people. If there's anybody where a president and vice worked as brothers, it is me and that. And he knows. And I will always tell him that we must pull these people out of poverty. I came to you because you're a young man. For the first time in history of Nigeria, we had a presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, a party chairman. There were people born after Nigerian independence. I said, with three of us, we must save this country. And he knows my commitment to it. We must do this, we must do this. I can't be doing it with the background of a religious war.
We've got
or even tribal one.
Right, we've got about a minute and a half left, sadly. How would you describe your mood and your state of mind as Inauguration Day approaches? I mean, you're clearly not the one who will be sworn in, even though you believe that you won the election, but was, as your party put it, rigged out. What is your mood as that date approaches?
Charles, have you seen my mood change? No. I'm not desperate to be president of Nigeria. I'm desperate to see Nigeria work. I'm desperate to see a good Nigeria. And I'm saying, for me, and that starts by the process through which people get into office. The process as it is today is not acceptable to me or those who are following me. We want to build a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria cannot be built on 40 ground. It cannot be built with this rascality going on. It will only be built on what I call transparent process. If you want to be called His Excellency, you must come through an excellent way. I, Peter, go and check my background. Go and check who I am. I have never one day given anybody $1 to vote for me. I don't know who is INEC rec in my state. Go and ask him. I never met him. We only spoke once on phone when I asked him to do something. Ask Mahmoud, who is the chairman, whether he's met with me. He was given a job to build a new Nigeria. Go and ask anybody. Charles has served as 8 years as governor. I did not admit one person in the state university. I told them, anybody who didn't pass, don't take him, whether it's coming from me or not. We must start doing things rightly in this country. My mood remains the same. What it is yesterday is what it is today, and not tomorrow. All I want is a Nigeria where Nigerians will be proud to say they are Nigeria, with a security, where we can create jobs for the young ones so they have a means of livelihood, where there's a future they can hope. And it is that future they voted in Daddy and I, and we were prepared, and we are prepared tomorrow. Whatever happens, we remain steadfast. We're not going to go away. I'm not going to go away. Like I told you, I'm not a citizen of any other country. I'm a citizen of Nigeria. I believe in Nigeria, and I've said it. If there's war outside Nigeria, if there's war in Nigeria today, I'm outside, I'll come back here. Because I'm a citizen of here, and I believe in it.
I want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to really talk to us and give us your side of a lot of these controversies. We really appreciate it very much indeed.
So guys, you have listened for yourself what Peter Obi said during this interview, and you can see that Peter Obi didn't go wrong. As in, there wasn't anything bad that this man said. He was even careful in choosing his words, because you know, most times people will say arrest Peter Obi, he has committed blunder, he's causing unrest, even when Peter Obi has not spoken. We all know how when Dati Ahmed, granted an interview on Arise TV, people, instead of focusing on Dati Ahmed, they were now adding Peter Obi to it, that they should arrest Peter Obi, And you find out that Peter Obi is just a target. The opposition, they are targeting him. You know, this man cannot come out and speak. He can't say anything he does. They want to criticize him. They want to say he said blunder. Tell me how Peter Obi promising the Northerners that he's going to end, poverty in the North. How is that a problem, please? How is that a problem? You are going to make promises, based on the challenges that area is facing. Like Peter Obi told the Niger Delta people that he's going to, ensure that the seaports that they've been yearning for are being established, like in places like Akwa Ibom, River State, and other places. Peter Obi was like, he's going to make sure that there are going to be an entering and exit point for exports and imports. And when he went to the north, he knows that poverty is one of their problems, and they have land, they have land mass that are still uncultivated. And Peter Obi promised that he's going to ensure that those land, are being worked upon so that they can start making a living from there. He told the Northerners that they will feed Nigeria, and not only Nigeria, they will also export to other countries. And even to the people in the southeast, he talked about palm oil. Like in Owerri, when he went to Owerri, he told them that those of them in Owerri, that they can, start cultivating palm nuts and use it to develop places like Imo State. He made so many promises, and he said Lagos was going to be the financial headquarters for Nigeria. So Peter Obi was very careful in identifying the challenges in different states, and he went ahead to make promises on the basis of those challenges. So tell me how Peter Obi tell me tell me what's wrong about all the things that Peter Obi said in this interview. You can hear it for yourself that this man was very careful in choosing his words, but still, the opposition will still come after him. But nevertheless, I know they are just being scared. They are just panicking because of the tribunal that is about to commence. Honestly, Tinubu has got no hiding place. He has got no hiding place, and our eyes are on the judges. We know them. We are going to monitor them and see how they deliver justice, because what happened in Imo State will not happen again. Honestly, what happened in Imo State, we don't want it to repeat itself again in Nigeria. And, we all must stand up for the right thing to be done by our judiciary. And no doubt they are going to deliver justice. We have that confidence that they will not betray the Nigerian people. Because at this point, choosing who becomes the leader or choosing who becomes the president of Nigeria is very critical, because Nigeria is facing so many challenges. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.